Yo, welcome back to the channel, boys and girls. In today's video, we are doing an unboxing and first look on these Nepest Maui 45 wheels. I'm really excited for these wheels because now that we are living in a time where we're starting to see a lot of Chinese wheel brands on the market today, it's nice to finally see a set of wheels from a brand who are making the effort to sort of separate themselves from some of the run-of-the-mill Chinese wheels that we're seeing today. So in today's video, guys, we're going to be going over the specs on these wheels, of course. We're going to be talking about just exactly who Nepest is. We'll be doing a weight test on these wheels as well. And then we'll take these wheels out on the road to give you some of my first initial impressions on these wheels. Now, I'm going to be honest, right now at the time of this video, it's like 32 degrees outside Fahrenheit, which is like 0 centigrade. So I'm not sure what sort of first initial ride we're going to be able to do, but nonetheless, we'll make it work. So without further ado, let's begin. So first and foremost, who is Nepest? So Nepest is a wheel brand, and they are located in the carbon capital of the world, which is Xiamen, China. And they are producing OEM quality sets of wheels. The one we have here today is their Maui line of wheels. The retail on the Maui line of wheels is $1,299 USD, which of course is not cheap, but Nepest is not trying to position themselves to be a super duper cheap, affordable sort of set of wheels in the carbon market. These are positioned somewhere between sort of a Windspace Hyper wheel or an Elite Drive wheel. Some of the specs on this particular set of wheel, the 45, of course, we have carbon spokes, which are straight pulled. We have ceramic bearings, which is common at this price point. And then we also have the older style of the DT ratchet engagement. There's an option to either go for the 36 tooth ratchet. I opted for the 54 tooth ratchet design. Also, to full disclosure, Nepest, they did send this set of wheels out for me to review and to test out, and I will have a code for you guys down below where you can save 5% on any set of wheels from Nepest. And speaking of the Maui line of wheels, again, $1,299. They do offer a variety of different depths in this particular line. Even though I opted for the 45 depth wheels, they also offer a 35 millimeter depth wheel. I believe they also offer up a 50 depth wheel as well, and then they have some other lines of wheels on the website depending on what your budget is. So one of the things that really stood out to me with this set of wheels, and something that I really appreciate that Nepest is doing, is, as you can see, the wheels come with a wheel bag. Of all the wheels I've ever tested on this channel, at this point I've probably tested like 15 different sets of wheels. This is the first time ever that I've purchased a set of, or excuse me, I didn't purchase anything, but this is the first time that I've received a set of wheels that included a wheel bag. Now at this point, I've reviewed wheels that have cost like $2,500, like the Envy wheels or some of the Zip wheels, and even though they were borrowed or they're used, as far as I know, they do not include a wheel bag. And I think that's a really nice touch because, like I said in the introduction of this video, guys, because there are so many wheels on the market now, especially coming out of Xiamen, it's nice to see them try to position themselves to be separate. So you get the wheel bag, which is really nice touch. They include some spare carbon spokes. Again, I've noticed a lot of these Chinese brands seem to be going away from providing spare carbon spokes. And even if you do have some sort of catastrophic failure on the wheels where a whole bunch of spokes will probably break, it's rare that one or two spokes are going to break. It's still nice to have that insurance that they do provide you with spare spokes. Now, these wheels are tubeless ready, and Nepest also includes the tubeless rim tape. For myself, I would have liked to see them install the tubeless rim tape from the factory, but nonetheless, it's like a 5-minute job. It's not the end of the world. And then of course, they also include a spacer just in case you are still running a 10-speed cassette. Now, some of the other specs on these wheels is for the internal width, we have 21 millimeters internal width, and then on the external front, we have it's like 28, 29. So even though these are optimized for like 25C tires all the way up to like 40C tires, I would say that 28C tires would be the way to go for these wheels. That's something that I run on all of my wheels at this point. And I do find that while the trend has been going towards having 23 internal width. I do still appreciate 21 millimeter internal width because it does just offer just a little bit extra firmness. Now again, obviously some of that has to do with the frame or your tire pressure and what sort of inner tubes you run. But nonetheless, I still have a really good appreciation for 21 millimeter internal width rims, and something like an Elite Drive or Windspace, they are still doing that width as far as internal width goes. Next up, let's go ahead and get these wheels weighted. Ain't no stopping us now. We're on the move. Ain't no stopping. Oh, sorry. Anyway, shout out to McFadden and Whitehead. Ain't no stopping us now. Super duper classic disco record. If you haven't heard the song before, you must be living under a rock because this song is off the chain. Anyway, let's go ahead and weigh out these Nepest Maui 45 wheel set. We have carbon straight pulled spokes, ceramic bearings, and then of course we have the old style DT Swiss ratchet hub. So first we're going to weigh out the rear wheel. All right, and then for the rear wheel we have 710 grams. You guys see that? 710 grams. All right. Now, some of the other specs on these wheels is we have 21 millimeters internal width, and then the external width on these wheels is like 28, 29, depth being 45 millimeters deep. All right, so now for the front wheel, we have 572 grams, which gives us a grand total of 1,282 grams. That's actually really good for this depth, for 45 millimeter depth. The only thing is tubeless rim tape is not installed. But anyway, let's continue. Now, taking a look at the wheels visually, they look really, really good. They definitely are of a OEM spec quality as far as the wheel goes. Now, the finish on the rims, it's not quite a gloss finish, and it's not a matte. It's something sort of like a satin finish, but it's really, really nice. It's inoffensive. I mean, even though, like I said, I do prefer to have had the wheels be installed with tubeless rim tape from the factory. The good thing with this is you are able to see the sort of finish and craftsmanship that Nepest put into the wheels, and so they did a really good job with the finishing on these. Everything looks really, really good. The carbon spokes, now these are a pretty common style of carbon spokes from China. These, I believe, are the ST-01 carbon spokes. You'll see these on like a Windspace Hyper wheel or an Elite Drive D line of wheels. A very common spoke, which does make for a stiff and firm ride, which the good thing is because these are a 45 millimeter depth wheels, that sort of mitigates some of the super duper stiffness that you would expect versus going with a wheel that had like a 65 millimeter depth wheel. Now, another thing I do want to point out too is, as you can see, these wheels are a straight pulled spoke design, which again is pretty common for this price range and this style of wheel coming out of China. But there is one thing that Peak Torque mentioned that has kind of stuck into my head in the last year. Now, he's an engineer, I'm not, so I'm not going to go into all the details because I don't really know exactly how to explain this. But nonetheless, one of the things he said with this particular style of a hub design when it comes to straight pulled spokes is there is no redundant backup in case one of these spokes detensions and pops out of this hub design. And so that's something that some of the other brands have figured out and have been able to design. This one is using a pretty standard design. So it's just something to note. I mean, the odds of something happening where you have this catastrophic failure of one of these spokes popping out and detensioning and twisting out is very, very unlikely. But it is something to note that this style does not offer any sort of backup redundancy in case of spoke detentions. Now, despite the design on these the hubs, like I said earlier, it's really nice that Nepest included everything that you see right here with the extra spokes, the tubeless valves, even a product manual. It's really, really nice that they did that. Of course, the spare or the cassette spacer if you're still running 10 speed. I don't know why you'd be running 10 speed, but that as well as the bag, it's nice to see Nepest try to offer up a customer experience that punches above its weight. And so it makes sense why this wheel does not cost something like $900 or $1,000 USD. They are trying to position themselves to be a OEM quality level as far as how they're positioning their wheels. Now at 1,282 grams, these are actually the lightest wheels that I've ever tested on this channel, just slightly beating out my Elite Drive 45D wheels. The caveat being that these did not come installed with tubeless rim tape, and I believe my Elite Drive 45D wheels did. So you figure, say you add, I don't know, 25 grams, this will be a little bit heavier than those. But nonetheless, for these being anywhere near the ballpark of being that light for a set of wheels, especially at this price point, is extremely respectable, and I'm really hopeful that these wheels are going to perform really well, especially if you live in an area with either a lot of crosswind or you're doing a lot of climbing. So let's go ahead and get these wheels installed so that we can take these wheels out on the road, and I can give you some of my first on the road impressions of these Maui 45 wheels. Free hub sound test on these Nepest Maui 45 wheels with the 36 or 54 tooth ratchet engagement. I'm pretty sure it's 36, but let's go ahead and find out. All right, that sounds like 54 to me. So let's continue. Whee! It is so cold today, guys. It's like 32 degrees Fahrenheit, 0 degrees centigrade for all you communists out there. When it comes to black men, we only have 2 kryptonites. One of them is white women, and the second kryptonite is cold weather. It's so cold today, but hey, you gotta do it for the content, right? But anyway, we are doing our first ride on these Nepest Maui 45 wheels. 3 things I noticed with these wheels right away. Number 1 is the free hub is virtually silent when you are freewheeling. While myself, I do prefer a loud and obnoxious free hub. These are very quiet, so it could just be that Nepest added a lot of free hub grease to make these hubs virtually silent. So if you are someone, maybe you're old school where you don't like a lot of loud noises on your free hub, these will be a good option in that regard. The second thing that I noticed with these wheels right away is the weight, or should I say the lack of weight with these wheels. I mean, there's really no denying that at this weight, sub 1,300 grams, that these wheels accelerate very well, especially coming out of red lights. We don't really have any hills here in Chicagoland. We basically just have small bridges and small punches, but there's no denying that for this weight, these wheels do a really good job of spinning up really quickly, and they're very fast to accelerate. And at a 45mm depth, I think these would be a really good set of wheels so far. If you are someone that races, I don't race, but if you have a course with a lot of accelerations and a lot of punches, I think this would be a good set of wheels for that. And the third thing I noticed with these wheels right away is just how balanced they make this frame set I have here, this Yishan R086D frame set. They really balance out the ride dynamics of it. Now for some perspective, I recently did a first ride on my Elite wheels, those Velo 6 wheels that are just the fully carbon monocoque design. Those wheels are a hoot to ride, but there's no denying that the weight of those and just the design, they don't lend themselves to being good at accelerating. They do a pretty good job with this frame set, but compared to these Nepest Maui 45 wheels, these wheels do a good job of balancing out the overall ride dynamics and characteristics of this frame set. And what that means is these wheels offer a ride that's firm but very predictable, especially in the corners. These wheels handle that very well. They're not harsh, they're not rattly, anything like that. I'm running about 80 psi with latex inner tubes, and all of that as a total system really makes for a really good dynamic ride that doesn't punish you and does offer a little bit of compliance, whatever that term means, simply because these wheels are not super deep in depth. Now, of course, I do wish that it was a lot warmer, because I would love to take these wheels out for a longer ride, but it is what it is. Living in Chicago, it's very cold, and this is just the first ride. So stay tuned, guys. Hopefully later on in the season, when the spring comes, I'll be able to give you guys a more in-depth commentary on these wheels. But at a first glance, I like them a lot. They handle crosswinds very well. They're lightweight. They do handle some of the dynamics and predictability when it comes to this frame. And especially if you can get these with my code, I think they do offer up a really good value proposition. I like these wheels. They're very inoffensive. Sometimes when I'm out here reviewing all these different sets of wheels, it's easy to kind of get suckered into reviewing wheels that are super aero and have all these quirky characteristics to them. But sometimes you just forget that you just really want a set of wheels that work, that offer a firm and predictable ride, and they just work. And I think this is what Nepest is trying to go for. They're not trying to reinvent the wheel. They're just trying to offer up an OEM level of quality with their wheels, offer up really good customer service, and just really offer something that a lot of these other Chinese wheels, while they may offer really good wheels, but they may not be able to nail everything as far as the whole entire customer experience goes. Again, guys, so just to reiterate for this first ride, the 3 takeaways on this Nepest Maui 45 wheels is 1, that the free hub is very silent when you're freewheeling. 2, these wheels are very lightweight and are easy to accelerate. And 3, they offer up a very balanced ride feel for a frame set that is arguably on the stiffer and harsher side of things. So that's going to wrap up today's video, guys. Stay tuned in the coming months, hopefully when the weather gets warmer, when I can give you guys a longer term review on these wheels. A huge thanks to Nepest for sending out these wheels for me to test out. And as always, if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, please feel free to leave them down below, and I will check you guys on the next one. Thank you so much for watching. Peace.